Hey, what's up, family? Welcome back to Hashtag Uplift, uplifting you in your faith, family, and finances. If you're new to the channel, I'm Dimitri, and I'd like to extend a warm welcome and a thank you for tuning in today. So let's connect in the comment section and say hello and where you're tuning in from. So in today's episode, we're going to explore the inspiring lives of biblical observant mothers who have shown unwavering faith and dedication to their families. And just recently, on Mother's Day, we had the privilege to honor all mothers out there, and not just our own. So today, I want to encourage, strengthen, and uplift moms, even future moms out there, because being an observant mother is an important aspect of parenting. And there are many examples of observant mothers throughout history, including the Bible. So in this video, we'll explore 3 notable examples of observant mothers in the Bible and discuss the impact of their observant motherhood on their children. So be sure to stick around to the very end, as I'll be sharing a bonus example that you may have never heard of before that'll also encourage you. So let's dive in and uncover the secrets to their steadfast faith. Cue the music. All right, so the first example we want to cover today is Sarah. And Sarah, originally named Sarai, is a prominent figure in the Old Testament and plays a vital role in the narrative of the patriarchs. She's primarily known as the wife of Abraham, the revered patriarch of Israel, and for her miraculous conception and birth of their son Isaac. And Sarah's story begins in the book of Genesis, where she is introduced as Abraham's wife. They journeyed together following God's command to leave their homeland and venture out into the land of Canaan. However, Sarah faced a significant challenge, right? And she was barren and she was unable to conceive a child. Despite her inability to bear children, God promised Abraham that he would become the father of a great nation and that Sarah would soon bear him a son. However, as years went by and Sarah remained childless, she grew impatient and took matters into her own hands. She suggested that Abraham have a child with her maidservant, Hagar, which was common, it was a common practice at this time. But Hagar gave birth to Ishmael. But this decision, it led to complications and tensions within the family. Eventually, when Sarah was about 90 years old, God reaffirmed his promise and declared that Sarah would conceive and give birth to a son. This announcement seemed impossible given her advanced age and long-standing barrenness. Sarah initially found it hard to believe, even laughing at the idea. However, true to his promise, right, God enabled Sarah to give birth to Isaac, whose name means laughter, symbolizing both Sarah's initial disbelief and the joy that followed. Sarah's faith journey was marked by ups and downs. She made mistakes like suggesting the surrogate solution with Hagar, but she also demonstrated great faith and perseverance in believing in God's promises. She embraced her role as the mother of a great nation, and she nurtured Isaac, ensuring his upbringing and making sure that it aligned with the spiritual legacy God intended for their descendants. Sarah's story serves as a reminder of God's faithfulness, even in situations that seem impossible. It illustrates the importance of trusting in God's timing and his ability to fulfill his promises. Throughout the Bible, Sarah is praised as a woman of faith. She is even mentioned in the New Testament in the book of Hebrews, chapter 11, commonly known as the Hall of Faith, where her trust in God is commended alongside other notable figures. Sarah's journey highlights the transformative power of faith and the way God can work through even the most challenging circumstances to fulfill his purposes. Her story continues to inspire believers today to trust in God's promises and seek his guidance in their own lives. The second figure that I want to bring up today is Hannah. So Hannah is a significant figure in the Old Testament, particularly in the book of 1 Samuel. She is remembered for her story of faith, perseverance, and the birth of her son Samuel, who would go on to become a renowned prophet and a judge of Israel. Hannah lived during a time when she was unable to conceive a child, which caused her with great sorrow and anguish. She longed to have a child of her own and fervently prayed to God for a son. In her desperation, she made a vow to dedicate her child to the service of God if her prayer was answered. One year, Hannah and her husband Elkanah went to the tabernacle at Shiloh to worship and offer sacrifices. There, she poured out her heart in prayer, pleading with God for a child, Eli. The priest of the tabernacle, he observed her praying silently, moving her lips without making any sound, right? She seemed kind of weird. But so Eli initially, she thought she was drunk and he rebuked her. But however, Hannah explained her situation and Eli ended up blessing her, right? And he assured her that God would grant her request. So in due time, Hannah became pregnant and she gave birth to her son, whom she named Samuel, meaning heard by God or asked of God. So true to her vow, once Samuel was weaned, Hannah brought him to the tabernacle and presented him to Eli, dedicating him to the service of God for his entire life. Hannah's faith and trust in God are evident throughout her story, right? Her persistence in prayer, her willingness to make sacrifices, and her commitment to honoring her vow, it all serves, right, as an inspiring example of devotion and obedience. God rewarded her faithfulness, blessing her with additional children after Samuel. Samuel grew up under the care and guidance of Eli, the priest. He would go on to play a crucial role in Israel's history as a prophet, a judge, and anointer of kings such as King Saul and King David. Hannah's influence and prayers continued to shape Samuel's life and his dedication to serving God. Hannah's story also serves as a reminder of the power of prayer, the faithfulness of God, and the significance of dedicating our lives and the lives of our children to God's service. Her unwavering faith and the remarkable outcome of her prayers continue to inspire and encourage people today. And our third and final example is Jochebed. Jochebed is a remarkable woman mentioned in the book of Exodus in the Old Testament. She is recognized as the mother of Moses and who's, of course, one of the most significant figures in the history of the Israelites. During Jochebed's time, the Hebrews were living as slaves in Egypt. So Pharaoh, the ruler of Egypt, he became fearful of the growing Hebrew population and ordered that all Hebrew male infants be killed at birth. So in the midst of this dire situation, Jochebed gave birth to a son whom she later named Moses. Jochebed's love and her desire to protect her son from Pharaoh's decree led her to take extraordinary measures. She ingeniously crafted a basket and waterproofed it with tar and pitch. Placing Moses inside of the basket, Jochebed placed it among the reeds along the banks of the Nile River, trusting in God's guidance and his protection. So miraculously, Pharaoh's daughter discovered the baby Moses while bathing in the river. Touched by the child's cries, she recognized him as a Hebrew baby and decided to adopt him as her own. So in an incredible turn of events, Jochebed was asked to even nurse and care for Moses, thus ensuring her continued involvement in his life. So Jochebed's role in Moses' life was not limited to his early years. She also had the privilege of raising and nurturing him in his formative years, instilling in him a love for his Hebrew heritage and a strong faith in God. Jochebed played a pivotal role, right, in shaping Moses into a courageous and faithful leader that he will become. Jochebed's story exemplifies bravery, resourcefulness, and deep trust in God. She faced the grave danger of losing her son, yet her faith and ingenuity allowed her to protect him. And her actions highlight the lengths of which a mother's love can go in the face of adversity. And Jochebed's legacy is not only seen in Moses, but also the impact that it had on the Israelite nation. Moses eventually led the Hebrew people out of slavery in Egypt and received the Ten Commandments from God. Jochebed's dedication to her child and her trust in God's providence ultimately contributed to the liberation and the preservation of the Israelites. Though Jochebed's story is brief in the Bible, her significance as a loving and courageous mother is profound. Her example inspires mothers to embrace their roles as protectors, nurturers, and faith builders in the lives of their children. And Jochebed's story reminds us of the power of a mother's love and the faith that can move mountains, or part the sea in Moses' case. kind of give an overview of what these mothers faced, one of the things that was common was barrenness. And many biblical mothers like Sarah and Hannah, they struggled with infertility and they relied on their faith to overcome this challenge. And they all made sacrifices, right? Like mothers like Jochebed and Hannah, they had to make difficult decisions to protect their children and fulfill God's plan. And they also had the responsibility of raising godly children, right? Biblical mothers face the challenge of raising their children to follow God in a world filled with temptations and distractions, very similar to what we have to deal with today. So the lessons that these mothers teach us, right, is number one, is to trust in God's timing, right? Sarah and Hannah's stories remind us to be patient and trust in God's perfect timing. And number two is to seek God's guidance. Each story teaches us the importance of seeking God's guidance in our decisions and our actions. And number three is courage and faith. These stories inspire us to have the courage and the faith in the face of adversity. All right, so that concludes the biblical mothers that I told you that I would share. Now let me go ahead and drop a bonus mom that you may have never heard about. And that bonus mom is my wife, right? So when I met my wife back in 2016, she was about to complete her master's degree at Auburn University and go on to begin medical school. So at this point, it was just her and Jesus, right? Like for real. We were both caught off guard when we began dating. But, we started dating and we were later married in the summer of 2018. So this was just before she started medical school. And our plan was to not have children until she started residency. Well, that didn't happen. And things didn't go as planned. With me having children prior to our marriage and her giving birth to not one, but two children during medical school, right? Our family grew pretty quickly, to say the least, right? So now, ladies, here's where I want to encourage you. Even though the path wasn't easy and the days and nights were long, and they still are long, the destination didn't change, right? Even just recently during her current rotation in residency, my wife was up at 4 a.m. at the hospital by 5, and she was home later at 9 o'clock that night. And then our son wakes up in the middle of the night and he wanted to be comforted. And, I went to lay him back down and he just wasn't having it. So she was like, nope, give him here. I know what he needs. And then I bring him to her. She proceeds to nurse him. She put him back to bed, got about 3 hours of sleep, and then boom, back at it again, which is insane. So what she does on a day-to-day basis encourages me, right, every single day. She'll come home with all of that. She'll come and play games with the kids. She'll read books with the kids. She'll worship, pray, and put them to bed. And I'm just like, how do you do this? 'Cause I'll be honest, like her faith and trust in the Lord to sustain her regardless of the challenges, it's a daily inspiration for me, right? And I pray it encourages you as well. And, her example, it reminds me of an old hymnal, Leaning on the Everlasting Arms. So check out the lyrics to that hymn in the description. All right, so as we've seen, biblical observant mothers have much to teach us about faith, dedication, and even perseverance. So by learning from their examples, we can grow in our own faith and become better parents, spouses, and followers of Christ. So I want to just thank you all for joining today on Hashtag Uplift. And don't forget to like this video for the YouTube algorithm. It pushes this video out to more people and it spreads this message further. So be sure, if this has added any value, please go ahead and share this video as well. So comment below as well, any moms or any mothers you'd like to shout out from the Bible or even in your own life, right? And be sure to subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell for more uplifting content on faith, family, and finances. I really appreciate you all for tuning in. And I just want to say, may God bless you and may He keep you. I love you all. See y'all later.